250 ethnicities, 175 different languages, one of the most multicultural cities in the world. Toronto, a city where creativity flourishes. The city overflows with countless cultures and unique people who are free to express themselves and do whatever their heart desires. Every moment we spend in the city drives our creativity forward. Different colors, different sounds, different communities. As you walk through the city, you can meet a variety of eclectic characters. DJs, artists, craftsmen. They each choose a different path. However, you'll find that there's one thing they all have in common: enthusiasm. Their souls do well in each of their crafts. You can feel the breathtaking focus and commitment. You can feel their strength to not give up, the passion and eagerness. The artists' powerful imaginations roll throughout the city, where the heartbeats of the young and ambitious can be heard. Yes, this enthusiasm is the source of Toronto's energy. With this enthusiasm, people are strong and free. What kind of art, what kind of life can I create here? This is our city, Toronto. What's up people? 안녕하세요, 수요일군입니다. So in today's video I'm gonna show you how I shot the short film that you just watched with some behind the scenes and a little breakdown and stuff. Okay, let's dive right into it. So this is me setting up a light. I think that's Amaran 200X. That was the only light I had for the shoot, and I was planning on using the natural light coming through the window as my key light, but it wasn't just bright enough to get slow motion shots, so I ended up using the Amaran, and I didn't want the light stand to be in the shot, so I had to somehow place the light near the window area. And luckily I was able to put the light on the frame of the window, but it needed to be perfectly balanced so that it doesn't fall. So I just taped it all up and that worked. And I used a bunch of haze spray to add some depth, and the light was really harsh, so the haze acted like a sort of a diffusion. And this shot was kind of difficult to get because I had to track the model as he sat down at the right timing, so I think we tried 6 times or something.
Get it? One last time. I got it, but I just want to be safe.
And this is a shot of the violinist. And I tried to be as low as possible while shooting so that the camera tilts up. That way the subject looks more powerful and stronger, I'd say. And again, this shot was a challenge because we needed the perfect timing. I think we tried over 10 times to get this shot. I was really rushing because the sun was setting already, but I tried to use, different lenses and frames and angles to make sure I get a variety of shots. As you can see, I'm pretty far away from the model because I was shooting with 85mm and I really liked how it came out. And this is me trying to hold the shot for the last scene as long as I can. It looks funny, but it definitely helps in the edit. And I headed to Dundas Square to get some shots. So for this specific shot, I wanted a handheld kind of shaky feeling. So I put the camera on the gimbal and I turned off the gimbal. So the reason why I put the camera on the gimbal is to give it a bit of weight to it. So I still wanted the shakiness, but not the micro jitters. Now, because this phone is tiny and light, you're gonna get a ton of that micro jitters if you turn off the image stabilization, which this camera has built in, but it crops in a bit and has some artifacts that sometimes looks weird, so I just leave it off pretty much all the time. And because I added some weight to it by putting it on a gimbal, it doesn't have that micro jitters. As you can see, I'm not doing the ninja walk like I was doing when getting a smooth gimbal shots. Again, that's to give it a bit of shakiness to it. So I found this water on the street, and I thought the reflection looked really cool, so I had the model step into the water and keep walking, and it's one of my favorite shots of the entire film. And this is me getting some aerial shots in a helicopter. I tried to get as many shots as possible with different lenses and settings, because the helicopter ride was pretty expensive. I think I paid like 900 Canadian dollars for 2 people, and it was only about like 15 minutes or something, but I got so many amazing shots, so no regrets on that. And this was at the Kensington Market. The artist was doing his gallery thing in the area, so I went there and filmed. And it was quite a challenge to make sure I don't get anybody else in the frame in a public space like this, but it turned out great, so I'm happy with that. And this is just me getting some B-roll. And a voiceover.
We spend in this city drives our creativity forward.
So I wanted to film a car scene like this, but since I had to drive as well, I had to figure out, how to film the car without a camera operator. So I just taped the camera to the car number plate, and this is the result. I was happy with how it came out, but couldn't find a good place to put it, so didn't use it for the final film. A lot of you have asked how I color graded on this video. Now, I'm not a pro colorist and there are lots of awesome tutorials on YouTube, so I highly recommend checking those out, but I'll just briefly show you my workflow. So this is without any color grading, and this is after color grading. And this was not shot in log, it's already Rec 709. So it looks great straight out of camera. Usually before I do any grading, I like to color correct it first, but I didn't do any color correction for this specific shot because it looked already great. So I jumped straight to color grading. Let's see what I did here. I like to add a bunch of color wheels and adjust only one thing in each wheel, so I can see what each wheel is doing, turning on and off. That's why I have many color wheels and these curves. So let me go ahead and turn it all off. Now, I don't use LUTs for every single shot, but for this specific shot I used Phantom LUT. As you can see, it's way too much when you apply it, so I'll just bring down the intensity. That looks good. And the color wheels one, I added a little bit of greenish yellow to the highlight. If I turn it on, you can see what it's doing. For the color wheels two, I added a bit of green to the shadow area. If I turn it on, looks like that. Bit of orange to the midtones. So for the color wheels 5, I added a shape mask, and inside the shape mask, turn down some level in the sky and lift it up some levels in grass area. So if I turn it off, it looks like that. And for the hue saturation curves, I cleaned up the shadow area by doing this. I don't know if you can tell, but if you turn it on, it just cleans up the shadow. And the second hue saturation curves, I changed some colors and brought down some saturation, so you can see if I turn it on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Here's before and after. So this is what my timeline looks like. As you can see, I didn't do much to the sound. I just didn't want to overdo it because I'm still learning it. So I added just a few sound effects here and there, like this whoosh and this kind of stuff. Let's see how it sounds without the sound effects. Every moment we spend in the city drives our creativity forward. Every moment we spend in the city drives our creativity forward. And the music. So I randomly found this music before I even started planning on making the film. And as I was listening to the music, all these ideas came across my mind. So I started making the short list and, reaching out to the artists who I just found on Instagram and Facebook. And I even went out to the street and there was this random guy with a really cool looking car. So I asked him, hey, I'm a filmmaker and I'm working on this project. Do you want to be part of this? And he said yes. So a few days later we met up and shot all these videos and everyone was just happy to help me out. Some of them refused to get paid. Anyway, it all started with this music. Now, music not only plays such a key role in storytelling, but it also inspires you to create something. And to find the right music for your video, you need a right music licensing website. I used to have my subscriptions to 3 different platforms, but right now I almost exclusively use MusicBed. They have a huge variety of music that is all really high quality. I was literally blown away when I found this song on MusicBed, which I used to listen to every single day because I really loved it. And now I can use this song in one of my videos and monetize it. How cool is that, right? So if quality is your top priority, then I'll say MusicBed is one of the best options you have. Now, they're not sponsoring this video, but I am an ambassador of MusicBed, so you can find me on their website, as well as my playlist of my favorite cinematic music from them. So basically, the entire film was shot on this smartphone called Xperia 1 Mark IV from Sony. I bought this phone just so I can make the film on it, but I ended up switching to this from iPhone because I quite liked it. Even though I have some tiny little issues using this phone on a daily basis, the camera on it is great, it's good. If you're a photographer or a videographer like myself, you're not going to be disappointed with this. I used Video Pro app, not the Cinema Pro, because I couldn't turn off the HDR option in Cinema Pro. And I'm not a big fan of that HDR look, which is a shame because Cinema Pro sounds better. It sounds more professional, which is stupid. But anyway, I set my shutter speed to 48 when I'm shooting 24 FPS and 250 when I'm shooting slow motion. And to lower the exposure, I use this tiny little ND, just like so. Yeah, and you can just take it off when you don't need it. I think it was pretty expensive considering its size. It was like 40-ish on Amazon. Yeah. And when it's really dark, I'll just set my shutter speed all the way down to 24 to let in more light. Now, when you set your shutter speed lower than 48, you might see more like blurry motion blur, but as long as your subject doesn't move so fast, you're not gonna notice it. So this is what I used, and I know it's overkill for a smartphone, so I bought this gimbal. It's Zhiyun Smooth 5, but I've never really used it. Let me show you. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit tilted like that way, and it never goes completely horizontal. The result is okay, but not as smooth. If you just want to use it for a casual vlog, then it's great. It's light, it's small, it's cheap, but if you want a really smooth gimbal movement, then definitely go for a bigger one like this. So I made this short film all by myself. I planned, I shot, I edited, I recorded voiceover, and it took me about 2 months of time and over $2,000, including the phone itself and the studio rental, the models, the list goes on. And the biggest lesson I learned from it is people don't really give a shit about your film unless it has a really good story. And that's exactly what my short film is missing. Yes, it looks visually beautiful, but doesn't have an interesting story. I was really happy with the results when it first came out, so I submitted the film to a film festival from Sony and MusicBed award, I guess, thinking that I'm gonna win every award. But it didn't really go well. But if you ask me, was it worth like spending that much of time and money on a film that nobody gives a shit? And the answer is yes, 100%. I learned so many things from making this film. I figured out, my limitation and how I can improve that. And I met so many amazing people who are just such an inspiration. So if you want to make a short film or a documentary or really whatever you want to make, go ahead and do it. Get out there and start filming. So that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And I just hit 10,000 subscribers. Thanks guys. Bye bye.